is Mooney Singh, and welcome. I have with me today Dr. Frankie Lee. Dr. Lee is a neuroscientist, and I'm so thrilled to learn about all the wonderful things that he does in his career. Now, Dr. Lee and I met for the first time when he was deciding and contemplating becoming a STEM for Kids franchisee, which he is a franchisee now. Dr. Lee, welcome to the show, and we
Hello.
would love to know a lot about your journey as a neuroscientist.
Yeah, thanks for having
So
me.
wonderful. If you can get us started, maybe just talking to us a little bit about Dr. Lee. Um,
Mhm.
what does a neuroscientist do? Like, what did you do in your career as a neuroscientist?
So, in general terms, basically, it's just doing a lot of research just on the brain. And for me, and everyone knows the brain is very complicated, right? So, for me, my specific focus is on how the early brain changes with regards to other effects such as your learning, your memory, and even mental diseases such as schizophrenia and autism as well. Mhm.
Very nice. Wow. How, talk to us a little bit about how did
Mhm.
you, as a child growing up, how did you decide to go into the space of brains?
I think when I was growing up, I always had a strong interest towards biology and life sciences because, yeah, and then so I took some courses in high school related to biology because we can choose different subjects in high school based on, which like science or art. But yeah, so I was really interested in biology. And yeah, and then I also just continued on with a lot of these life science topics. And then I found out actually, the brain controls everything, right? It's kind of the center, the mind, the center of everything. So yeah, I become interested and, just study a lot and yeah, I just want to know more about, that brain that we have. It's such a small, area or like volume of brain, right? And then, but it controls so much stuff. It's very fascinating.
You're looking from the outside in, right? I have done nothing with brains. All I know is that it's just so amazing. So, tell us, like, maybe take us into the workings of how do you do your research? Like, do you dissect the brain? Like, how do you really like find out
Mhm.
information about the brain?
So for us, because using humans or whatever are like yeah, it's not really ethical. So for researchers, mostly if we want to do research on the brain, we would do it on the mouse or the rat first, because those are actually genetically identical to our DNA, approximately 95%. So from there, we can deduce some of the ideas or like some of the brain development in mice and try to see if we can further elucidate to whether in humans would be the same. But yeah, so we start with the mouse, we dissect the brain in the mouse, and also fortunately, we also have something called like a brain bank, and which has like a humans, deceased brain where they already signed that they would donate their brain for research. So from those, we also can look at some ideas of, let's say, for example, this disease. We can compare the brain structure of, let's say, a schizophrenia patient versus like a normal patient. So yeah, we start off with the mouse brain, and then we also have comparisons in some diseased patients with like a brain using a brain bank samples.
Very nice. So you actually
Mhm.
compare like a normal with something which has a disease to figure out what parts of the brain are different and why they are triggering different
Yes,
responses.
that's exactly yes. Mhm.
Oh, very cool, very cool. So, for the children, for the youngster listening here, and people who want to get into this field, what should they be doing? What can they do now?
I think the most important is really just develop an interest to see if you're, interested in biology. Because I mean, it sounds very, interesting and fun, but it takes a lot of persistency. Because I can tell you that 90% of our experiments are always failure. That we have to, test it again and again. So it requires I would say, a very strong interest in it. And yeah, so I mean, that's why with STEM for kids is really good that you start off in the beginning, that you try to see if you're interested in a certain field. And for me, and for the youngsters out there, yeah, like if you're really interested in maybe not just the brain, but also other parts of the human body or elsewhere in the field. But yeah, you can definitely start now, develop an interest, and yeah, from there you can just find a lot of paths.
Again, my curiosity,
Mhm.
how many years of schooling was it for you to become a
uh,
scientist?
I think let's maybe not count the high school years because that was kind of a maybe like a general basic start of learning basic biology. But I would say I started with my undergraduate degree, which I did in University of Toronto, and yeah, that took me 4 years. And then I also then did like a master's plus PhD program, which also then took me 5 to 6 years, like approximately 6 years. So 10 years plus maybe like a few years of experience. So
Oh wow.
definitely more than 10, I would say. Yeah.
Oh wow. So it's almost like I mean like a profession like a medical profession, like if you become a doctor, the person who treats patients, it's
Mhm.
similar kind of a timeline as what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, yeah, I would say, and even maybe even more because we're, the field is changing all the time because a lot of different scientists in the world are, doing research at the same time. They might find out new information, and we have to keep on improving ourselves, knowing the latest knowledge on the field to see, yeah, how it changed. So basically, I have to say you're kind of learning, the the rest of your career at the same time
Absolutely.
you're doing the job. Mhm.
Absolutely, and I think you're right. It's such a dynamic and growing field, and people are getting so
Mhm.
interested in what can happen with the brain. I'm like, what is exciting for you now in terms of what's happening in brain research?
I think one of the most important point right now is the mental health stage, like mental health diseases, because for example, with especially nowadays with the pandemic situation, a lot of people are actually they don't know, but they're maybe having a slight little mental health state, depression. Those are very common. But yeah, so a lot of research are putting into uh, how to treat these symptoms, how to feel better with this so that we live a better life off it. And yeah, so I would say one of the most important would be the treatment, the research on different mental health diseases. Mhm.
Yeah, okay, wonderful. Looking back to your, your research and all the things that you've done after that,
Mhm.
tell us maybe two things that you love the most, something fun that like, did you like to talk about with our audience?
I think the fun, well, yeah, maybe interesting times of my research career. One of them would have to be the first time I really tried to dissect a mouse or a rat brain, which I mean, a normal person, even when you're studying biology in high school or even university, you won't be doing a lot of those. So it was quite, I guess, interesting, but scared at the same time because it's the first time. I mean, you see the rats running around on sewers, but you never think about dissecting it and using it as a research tool. But yeah, that was very interesting. And I guess another interesting point during my research was the development of technology, like the advance. How when I start from the like my earlier ages or earlier stages of my research, it was not really using a lot of computer or a lot of these technology stuff. But right now, I can tell you almost every like research, biological research field has a very high advanced technology stuff where they just use automated system or informatics or yeah. So a lot of uh, technology wise that I was really impressed with that developed along my career. Mhm.
Very nice. And as you were describing the desk section, actually a little story. I wanted to get into medical profession up until I think it was like maybe 11th grade, where we were in our labs. We were supposed to start dissecting rats.
Oh yes, yes.
And oh my goodness, I began that and I ran away from it. Then I went the other direction. So it's very
Yeah.
interesting. But you're right. I mean, I think you raised a very important point about, persisting, because,
Hmm.
if your research involves so much failure, and that's fact of life, like across the board.
Hmm.
In most cases, whenever we see somebody successful, there's so much failures that they have witnessed, they've experienced, and we just see that tiny portion of that success that kind of shoots up.
Hmm.
So it's really incredible that, and something, a big lesson for all the youngsters listening in, that stay with it, right? Stick with it, because
Yes.
it will take time. It will take a lot of failures, and that's how you learn and grow.
Can I just add one more point? Is that
Sure, go ahead.
actually in research, the failures is actually uh, you can say part of the success as well, because it helps us eliminate a certain a part that we, if we think that, oh, is this involved in a disease, and if it's a failure, that means, okay, this gene or whatever we're researching is not involved in the disease, so we can kind of eliminate. So think about it. I would think failure is not, a complete failure, but it's actually a success which helps us eliminate a certain, because there's so much research going on, and you can't do everything. You can't, right? You cannot do everything all at once. So uh, if we can eliminate certain parts of it, that I mean helps us at least shrink a little bit of our focus, which can help us immensely. Mhm.
Great way to put it, because that's like, basically what you're saying is that failures are finding the wrong answers, which also help you eventually get to the right pathway.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that is so powerful. Amazing. I love it the way you stated that. Very nice. Now, any other, like, do you have some guidance, any other guidance for the youngsters, or if they want to even try, what this field might entail? Any thoughts
I,
on that?
I think, uh, to be honest, not everyone would be interested, right, in research, because it takes a long time. It may just not be your interest. So, my suggestion would be, start early, try it out, to see if you're interested in it. Because, like we just discussed before, that it really takes a long time, and like even if you take like 10 or 20 years, you might just have a little part of success. So yeah, I would suggest the youngsters out there to really try it out first to see if you're interested in. If I mean, if you're interested, yeah, then persistent through it. But if you think I'm just not in the right field, because sometimes I understand some people may not be that good dealing with, let's say, blood or like live animals, those kind of thing, which can be, I mean, it's normal, but yeah. So developing an interest early, and then if you're into the field, then yeah, persist. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. I think exploring different things, and
Mhm.
you find your thing, and then you stick with it and go forward.
Yes,
Amazing. Very nice. Well, Dr. Lee, thank you so much for coming on the show,
no problem.
sharing all your insights. I'm sure this is such a inspiration for many youngsters out there, especially brain. People want to know what happens in this brain to
uh,
create all the wonderful things that people dream up of. So
oh
thank
yes,
you
yeah,
so much
no
for that,
problem.
and
Thank
for
you.
being on our show.
Thank you.